Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon and I serve as your host. Here in Ventura County we have an extraordinary set of resources and sometimes it's hidden. And so what we're going to do over the course of this program is talk a little bit about the Brain Injury Center. We have a new trauma service at the Ventura County Medical Center, and as a result we have more survivors, people who are able to survive extraordinary injury. We've gone a long way in terms of airbags and all that, but as a motorcycle rider I like to wear my helmet and hope that I'm not going to show up in my own emergency room. Today with me are Lee and Dave from the Brain Injury Center. Lee, tell us a little bit about yourself, and are you on the board?
I'm on the board of directors. I've been there since the very start when we started this whole thing about 20 some years ago, I think. And I'm a brain injury survivor.
Well, 20 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And so, do you mind telling us a little bit about how you got injured and your
Well, I
recovery?
lived out in Somas, and I was riding my horse in my pasture, and my pasture was all walnut trees. So she took me under a tree, so I smashed my head here, and then on the branch, and then on there in the back when I fell. And so I was in a coma for 6 weeks. And I was able to come out of all that, and through all the years I've just worked very hard and gotten to be back to my old self as much as possible.
Well, when you came, where were you cared for? Was it?
I was first taken to community hospital. It was the only place for head injured at that time. This was almost 33 years ago. And then after I came out of the coma, they sent me up to Santa Barbara Rehab.
And what kinds of things happen in rehab? Because I think we're going to talk a little bit about Representative Gifford and what's happening to her, and how things are the same, only different nowadays.
Well, because you have a head injury, you don't remember a whole lot. So I didn't even remember my parents or my husband at that time. And so I just knew that they cared about me. So I just let everything flow the way that life does.
Well, that must be hard for them too.
Oh,
here you have someone
definitely.
you love, and they know you must care for them, but they don't really know who you are anymore.
Well, that's why it's harder for them than for the person that's got the brain injury, because you just kind of fade out, and so things don't bother you like that.
Well, how did you get reacquainted?
Just that because they cared for me so much and took care of me and did everything for me, because I couldn't talk or walk, or it was hard to eat. I was paralyzed on my whole right side, and I had to learn everything over again.
So just them being there, you felt
Exactly.
the love all over
Yes.
again, it sounds
Yes.
like.
And that's a big thing. People that don't have that, I don't think, recover as well.
Or are there any services the Brain Injury Center can, because that's devastating as a husband for your wife not to know you.
Right, it's quite a dilemma for families. In our case, it's our niece who lives with us, and she has a brain injury, and her situation was similar to Lee's. She was in a traffic accident, not her fault, and was in a coma for 6 months. We didn't know if she would live or die. And when she awakened, her brain didn't remember how to walk or talk. She had to go through intensive therapies, and she's recovered quite well. She has a big family, and there is a lot of love and care. But it's challenging. Memory, like many people with a brain injury, has very poor memory, ironically. Yeah, her name is Memory. Her child of the hippies of the 60s. And she has trouble with planning, and so we have to help her with her schedule and to get organized and all. But she's recovered pretty well, and she's a very loving, rollicking girl, and there's a lot of action at our house. And as Lee said, luckily there was a lot of love in her family too, but it is a shocking development, and often marriages break up if it's your spouse who gets a brain injury, because they they simply aren't the same person anymore. They may be confused, angry, have trouble making decisions, have trouble talking. And with Representative Gabrielle Gifford, we're seeing the whole nation's going to have a chance to observe this process from start well through. She was in an induced coma. She recovered well. She's getting the very best therapy and care that anyone can possibly get, state of the art. But nevertheless, she will have setbacks, I imagine. She's lucky to live, but she would be extremely fortunate to fully recover. Very likely she'll have problems with speech and confusion and probably physical motion as well, and she'll have to go through extensive therapy to regain hopefully a significant part of her previous function. Whether she'll ever serve again is probably pretty doubtful, but there are miracles, and every brain injury seems to be just a little bit different.
So what kind of services then would the Brain Injury Center offer a family? Let's just start with the family in terms of family support. Do you have?
Well, we take over, as you said. There are great medical treatments these days, and lives are saved that would have never been saved before. So the Brain Injury Center tries to help people once they come out of their medical treatments. And we have support groups throughout the county where people can come and be with other brain injury survivors. The friendships and the sharing are very beneficial. People grow very attached to the other brain injury survivors. They really look forward to attending those meetings. We stage free seminars, one per month in Camarillo, where we deal with different aspects of brain injury and recovery. We've had seminars on relationships, on financial planning, on anger management, on substance abuse, different issues that are important and typically encountered by brain injury survivors.
Can you expand a little bit? That's quite a litany of things. So in terms of family issues, what kind of things come out at the workshop?
Well, relationships change, and if it's a husband and wife, for example, whereas it was a partnership previously, let's say the husband is injured. He was probably the primary wage earner. He was the handyman and the physical specimen and the rock of the family. Now he might not be able to work, might not earn a living at all, so that would undermine his self-respect. He likely is not as capable, probably can't function as well physically, probably can't communicate as well, maybe confused. And so now, instead of being a partner in that relationship, the wife now becomes a caretaker. And that really changes the dynamics of a family. It's very stressful. And so we counsel families how to cope with that, how to meet some of the challenges, to try to help their beloved family member get the resources, if it's help with transportation or education or medical issues, sometimes it's lodging. We try to help the families take care of those things, and we help the survivor as well.
Just what are some other referral sources that you use?
Well, if it's an individual who doesn't have a family to live with, then that person's going to need some help with lodging. And so we try to help with resources where they can get some subsidized housing. Transportation is an issue if you can't drive anymore. And so we work closely with the transit companies. There's the access service that will actually shuttle people from door to door, and the regular bus service, Gold Coast. And so we help people interface with that. Our support groups, we've had members of Gold Coast Transportation come out and do training classes so people learn better how to take the bus, how to read the schedule. Medical issues, we can help. We do neuro assessments, free neuro assessments, neurological assessments to find out where someone is in their functionality. We try to refer people to clinics or doctors who can help medically. There are financial issues. Some people need help with financial planning. We work closely with the Independent Living Resource Center to try to help people become more independent. But it's likely someone's not going to be fully independent if they have a severe brain injury. They're simply not going to be able to live on their own, handle all the functions, work and support themselves. Brain injury is a very significant disability.
There's another workshop you were mentioning there, and that was substance abuse. So would you give us some of the content of a workshop on substance abuse so that people are angry and depressed and
Right.
so they self-medicate? Is that the...
Yes, it's can be a problem, and if someone already has a brain injury, their mental grasp is already affected, and to further lessen their abilities with alcohol or drug intake is just very very dangerous. It can trigger brain seizures, and it can and people can just not be able to function very well. So we counsel what to do if you have the inclination towards substance abuse. We strongly recommend against it, and we explain exactly why. And there are people that we deal with that need a lot of help in that respect.
Is there a process? Were they able to help you through that feeling of self-worth and learning computer skills? I know nowadays if you want to work in a bar, you got to learn how to do a computer. You gotta,
When my accident happened, the Brain Injury Center wasn't around in those days. And so I had to learn all that by myself. And I'm a very stubborn person, and I feel if you're not stubborn, you die. And so most of us are this way. And you just have to keep on trying and not give up.
So how does that stubbornness for a caregiver there, Dave?
Well, we encounter stubbornness and anger issues, and I interface with a lot of other families who are caregivers, and that's something you have to deal with. The thinking process is altered in someone who has a brain injury, and you have to realize on what level you can deal. For example, we found that with our niece Memory, just trying to be positive and loving and supportive is really helpful. No sense getting in an argument because you'll never win, and so there is stubbornness, and there are issues with impulse control. And so someone with a brain injury might say something. We might all think 100 things a day that would be wise not to say, but someone with a brain injury might very well say it, and that can trigger an argument. So caretakers have to learn not to get into that argument and just let it go. Change the subject, and the anger will dissipate. We offer free to anyone, and we've supplied hundreds of identification cards that identify someone as having a brain injury with emergency contacts, medical information, and we've tried to train law enforcement to recognize if someone has a brain injury and know how to deal with it.
I think our local police department, it does upset them, and we don't want them pulling guns or shocking people.
Exactly.
They've recognized this and been very open to inviting us, and once they hear about us, that we've been invited by every force in the county, and they've been very welcoming and very open-minded, and I'm sure learned a lot. Speaking to schools is an important function. We have some individuals who unfortunately incurred their brain injury because of substance abuse, driving after having too much alcohol. And so we have a squad of people who go out and try to counsel high school students or college students on being safe and avoiding those stupid decisions, because it's not just life or death. There's a place in between that is, it's a long suffering problem, and we hope that people will learn from some of our lessons and not make those same mistakes.
We just had a scene at Foothill High School. We had a drunken driving accident, and having to call the parents at home and them know that their children were dead or severely injured. So the more we can practice with our teenagers, the front part of their brains don't seem to work very well, and boys maybe when they're 28, and girls earlier than boys, since we're all retarded. Well, what I'd like to do is let the people know that you have this kind of resource here, that education is available, public workshops are available, referrals for monetary assistance, for transportation, that all that's available. I really appreciate that you've been able to join us today, and I look forward to seeing more activities from the Brain Injury Center in the future. So we'll be right back, and thank you again, Lee and Dave.
The Brain Injury Center is a nonprofit 501c3 public benefit organization serving all of Ventura County. Our mission is to improve the quality of life for people living with a brain injury and their families and loved ones living in Ventura County. We help by providing information, education, outreach, advocacy, and a compassionate support system. Donations and sponsorships are tax deductible.